Rush Limbaugh is completely full of crap on this topic of iPhones and the FBI and backdoor ways to open your iPhone. He has no idea what he's talking about, and yet he claims to be an expert on Apple technology and iPhones. Let me explain, and then I'll play Rush Limbaugh making a fool out of himself in his own voice here shortly. My name is Mike Adams, by the way. I'm the Health Ranger. I used to own a software company, so I'm very, very well versed in encryption technology. And when I heard Rush talking about this on his February 22nd show, I was just stunned. He's either completely ignorant and totally full of crap, or he's deliberately lying to people about this. Now, here's what he's saying. He says because the FBI needs Apple to help it break into this iPhone of this San Bernardino terrorist, he says because the FBI needs to do that, therefore the government cannot track your phone calls or your texts or your location via your phone.
Have you learned through all of this? Do you now realize, despite how many of you have been running around thinking that the NSA can track your every move, they can listen to every conversation, they can maybe even turn on your microphone or camera on your phone and monitor what you're saying because your life is so exciting, people at the NSA can't stop tracking you. Now, all of a sudden, you're learning the government cannot hack your phone. You have learned they cannot get into your phone. Do you want them to be able to? It's no more complicated than that.
It's complete bullcrap. You know, sorry, Rush, you're lying to people. We already know that the government has been tracking people. It's admitted. It's in police departments by these devices that can track people down by the location of their cell phone signals. Very, very simple. It's done federally. It's done by the FBI routinely. They can triangulate a person's position just by getting the strength from the different cell phone towers and zeroing in on their phone. They don't need to hack your phone to track your phone's location. So Rush Limbaugh is either intentionally obfuscating this issue, or he is technologically illiterate and has no idea what he's talking about. The second thing is phone texts are, of course, tracked. They're recorded. Every text that you send as an SMS message, every normal phone text is tracked and recorded by the government. Edward Snowden already told us this, that the back doors are built into the system. AT&T, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, and other cell phone carriers, Verizon and so on, they all have back doors into the NSA. This has already been admitted, Rush. This isn't debated. Of course they know what you're texting. The only exception to that is if you're using an encrypted, end-to-end encryption text system, such as the application called Signal, for example, on Android. If you're using encrypted text, which Apple does offer, then of course the encrypted text cannot be read by the government, but the government can read all of the normal texts, which they do, and they record them all. They also collect metadata on everything that you do on your phone, who you're texting, who you're calling, who you're receiving calls from, the duration of those calls, and so on and so forth. And of course, your phone call is going out over the cell phone towers, and the government is, of course, recording and archiving all of those phone calls and using voice recognition to turn all those phone calls into searchable text. This has all been admitted, Rush. I can't believe Rush Limbaugh is so illiterate on technology that he thinks because the FBI is trying to break into the encrypted iPhone of this terrorist, that means there's no tracking of anybody else going on anywhere in the country. It's just astonishing. So, this is kind of an interesting theorem on this. Don't listen to Rush Limbaugh when he talks about technology. He has no freaking idea what he's talking about. Now, he's right about many issues. I've heard him speak about the failure of socialism and the bad economic policies of socialism and how socialism fails. And he's absolutely correct about that. He's got his areas of expertise. He knows about the corruption and the criminality of the Clinton regime. And he's right about all that. So I'm not saying he's a complete idiot on everything, but when he's talking about encryption and cell phones, he has no clue what he's talking about. Just absurd. He's one of these guys that even after Edward Snowden disclosed the fact that the NSA and the government are spying on you and listening to your phone calls and recording your texts, recording your phone numbers, all of that, Rush Limbaugh still lives in denial and thinks that you're a conspiracy theory nut if you believe the government is tracking any of your phone call data. He's still living in the 1980s, I guess. Wake up, Rush. Edward Snowden already dumped all the data documents. This is no longer a conspiracy theory, man. It's admitted. It's even admitted by the NSA itself. It's admitted by the government. Of course, they're tracking your emails, your web surfing behavior, your Google searches. They're tracking your phone calls, your texts. They can scan anything that you store in a cloud anywhere. So you're snapping all your photos, you're putting them in a cloud. That's all going right into the NSA, a giant data vacuum cleaner. They know all your friends on Facebook. If you're stupid enough to identify your friends on Facebook and hand over that data to the NSA, they're happy to take it. They can track any person by their cell phone. And yes, they can remotely listen in to your cell phone by using a hack that's been well published, well documented. I mean, if you go to hacker conferences, it's common knowledge that these federal agencies can listen to you. They can turn your cell phone into a microphone and listen to your conversations. It's common knowledge. This is not even like maybe 10 years ago it would have been debated. Not today, in 2016. Everybody knows this, especially the hacker community. The black hat people, the white hat people, everybody in between. The hackers working for government, the hackers working against government. Anonymous hackers. They all know, of course your cell phone data is being tracked. Why do you think they take the batteries out of their cell phones when they don't want to be tracked? They don't just turn off the phone. They don't just put it into airplane mode. They take the batteries out physically. And that's why they don't buy phones where you can't take the batteries out. To be secure, you have to take the batteries out so that the phone has no power, so that the feds can't listen through it or triangulate the position of that phone. But according to Rush Limbaugh, none of that is true because the FBI couldn't break into this terrorist's phone, which was locked by a special encryption layer that is unique to the Apple operating system and has to be, and doesn't even exist on all their devices, by the way. So it's just absurd. Here's the truth of the matter. Everything that you do electronically can be tracked. And the only way that any device of yours can be immune from being seized and scanned by any government is to have a very strong encryption layer on top of that device. And there are many, many different encryption programs, obviously, and encryption systems that you can choose from for lots of different devices, including Android devices, or your desktop PC, or your Mac, laptop, whatever. You can put encryption on it. You can encrypt the entire hard drive. You can encrypt a container on the hard drive and put files in that container. And those files will be encrypted. And no, the government can't hack that. Not until they figure out quantum computing, after which they'll be able to hack your files in about 30 seconds. Even strong encryption, like 512-bit encryption, they'll be able to hack it in minutes with quantum computing, but they're not there yet. So for now, encryption really works. But if you're computing, if you're using mobile devices in a way that they're not encrypted, then of course it's all being tracked. So don't listen to people like Rush Limbaugh who have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to this, and who are living in total denial and total delusion about the police state, the spy state, the surveillance state, as it's called. It's very real. Yes, everything you do through the open channels of your cellular device, everything you do is being tracked. Even if you browse to websites on your mobile phone, all of those URLs are being tracked and tied to your account. You might want to keep that in mind next time before you go surfing porn sites. Everything that you do on your phone is going over the cell towers, and I'm talking about in cellular mode, obviously not like local Wi-Fi mode. But when you're using cellular bandwidth, everything you do is being tracked. The YouTube videos you watch, the searches that you search for on Google or wherever else, the people you call, the texts that you receive, and so on and so forth. All of it's being tracked. And because your cell phone is probably tied to your credit card, and your credit card is tied to your social security number, it means that inside the NSA, they can just type in your social security number, and they can pull up every website that you visited, and every text you've ever sent, and every text you've ever received, and all the network of all the people you ever called, and all the people who called you, and all the people who called them before they called you. This just goes on and on. So they have a full profile of everything you do. And I'm sorry, Rush Limbaugh, if you don't realize this, you are living in the past, man. You're in caveman days or something. This is not even debatable. This is common knowledge today, openly admitted by the NSA and many, many police departments in America as well, that are using these devices to track people's location by their cell phone signals. I'll read you right from the ACLU website, which talks about these devices. They're called Stingray devices or cell site simulators. And the government just sets up a fake cell phone site, or they put one of these devices in a low-flying airplane like a Cessna, and they just fly it over your town. And then they pick up everybody's cell phone signals on that, and they can locate people, and they can harvest information from your phone, and harvest text, and harvest phone calls and voice data. Everything else. And they're all over the country. The ACLU has a map of them. And the map shows where local police have the Stingray devices, where state police have the Stingray devices, and where federal authorities have them. And here's a list of who's known to use Stingray devices. And this is published by the ACLU. The FBI, the DEA, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the IRS, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Secret Service, the Navy, the Army, the Marine Corps, the National Guard, the Special Operations Command, and the NSA. So, Rush Limbaugh, are you living in denial of all of this? You think Stingray devices don't exist? You think they have to hack your phone to track your location? No, they don't. All they need is one of these Stingray devices. Very simple. So folks, don't believe everything you hear on the radio. Make sure you get your information from people who are actually qualified to talk about the subjects that they're talking about. You know, I can talk about this because I used to own a software company, and this is very basic technology as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. People like Rush Limbaugh just don't seem to get it. I don't know what it is, if they're living in denial or if they're paid maybe to lie to people and try to pretend that there's no spying going on your cell phone. I mean, but frankly, it just sounds idiotic. It just sounds like someone who's as out of touch with technology as the Republican Party is out of touch with voters. Frankly, that's what it sounds like to me. In any case, I don't hate Rush, by the way. I'm not a Rush hater. And again, when he talks about other subjects, he's actually on the money, on many things. I mean, at least from what I've heard. But just make sure you don't believe everything you hear when people are talking about topics that they have no idea about. So anyway, I hope this has been useful. Bottom line is, you better encrypt your devices to protect your privacy. And even then, if you're using cellular bandwidth, everything that you're doing is being archived and scanned and tied to your name and your social security number and your credit card. If you don't realize that yet, you're not living in reality. All right. Thanks for listening. This is Mike Adams, Health Ranger, at healthrangerreport.com. Click subscribe to stay plugged in to the Health Ranger Report.